Welcome to the Storm Cellar. I'm Brad. With me today is Raymond, the Calgary Caniac. We've started this podcast as a way to share our love of the Carolina Hurricanes with the world. We want this to be a podcast for Caniacs by Caniacs. And whether you're a fan from the Hartford days or you just heard about the team yesterday, this is the podcast for you. We're going to talk Hurricanes hockey in general. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to have a good time talking about the team that we love. So once again, I'm Brad Moore. Some people call me the polar bear. I grew up in North Carolina predominantly. My dad was from Ohio, lived in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. My brother used to go see games at Madison Square Garden. I remember watching the ECHL Thunderbirds, the Carolina Thunderbirds, when they were a brand new team. One of our neighbors was playing for them. And I can remember just being captivated by the speed and power of the game. And so I had a pretty early introduction to hockey. You fast forward a few years and I'm living in Raleigh, having attended NC State. And in 1997, on May 6th, Peter Carmano says that he is moving the Hartford Whalers to Raleigh, North Carolina, and a Caniac was born. I've been following the team ever since. I now live in New England. I was a season ticket holder for a number of years, and some of my favorite memories come from being around the Canes, including having Stormy help me propose to the woman who is now my wife. So a lot of history there for me and the team. It's not always easy following the team from 600 miles away, but I still like to stay involved as much as I can, which is why we're starting this podcast. Turn it over to Ray, let him introduce himself. And Ray, I think you and I have known each other for about 20 years, although we've never actually met, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's been a very, very long time. And Brad, thanks for having me aboard this. This is going to be so exciting. Really looking forward to Storm Cellar and sharing our experiences and our love of the game. And you were talking about being a fan from 600 miles away. Being a fan from a few thousand miles away in Canada is a little bit different experience. I get a lot of questions is how in the world did you become a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes? You live in Calgary. You lived in Alberta your whole life. You weren't an Oiler fan. You weren't a Flames fan. No, it started in Hartford way back 1980. So a longtime fan. Loved hockey my whole life. Gordie Howe comes to the Hartford Whalers, brings his sons with him, and then just 1 or 2 seasons later, the drafting of one Ron Francis, the franchise himself for the Whalers, and then later on into the Canes in my eyes, and that was it. I was a huge fan, stayed with them all that time, even through the move. And, while a lot of people were upset with that move going from Hartford to Raleigh, to me, these were all the same players wearing a different jersey in a different rink. I loved them all before. Why would I stop loving them now for wearing different colors? Didn't matter. So stayed with the teams. I've actually had a chance to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land in Raleigh and watch games live. And I got to tell you, the love that I have for the fans there and the experience itself was truly amazing. Very, very fitting for this team. They're a nice little mesh. The players, the way they play matched up with the fans. You just got to love it. So I have a lot of love for the game. I'll share that throughout. I think you'll be able to tell. You probably tell now just how much I love this team. And we'll have a lot of time to share that here over the next, hopefully, very many podcasts to come because we're getting ready for the playoffs, which is so exciting. So really looking forward to this. So I'm glad to be along.
Absolutely. And I got to say, I couldn't remember what year you started following the team, but to not be an Oilers fan in the 80s, I mean, that's dedication. That's loyalty.
And it was where I lived in northern Alberta, you were either a fan of the Oilers or a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, because I lived in a relatively French Canadian town as well. And let me tell you, my despising level of the Habs is second to none. And the Oilers, I didn't find much love for them either, but I had a lot of respect for them. And how do you not respect a team that features, Gretzky, Messier, Yari Curry, Paul Coffey, Kevin Lowe, Grant Fuhrer. I mean, the list goes on and on, like every last one of them Hall of Famers, so yeah, hard not to respect that type of team for sure.
I seem to remember the phrase "the godless Habs" being used on more than one occasion.
A great many times. You'll always hear me throw that out there, here, there, and there. And I know I'm jumping up a little bit, but the playoffs this season, because it's the North playing the North, has a different spin on it. It's who is going to represent Canada for the opportunity to bring the Stanley Cup home to Canada. And that's put a different kind of twist to the playoffs here. And I know that jumps ahead. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I don't want to get too far, but that's what makes the love of hockey in Canada is second to none. It's the NHL in Canada is the US's NFL. You know what I'm saying? Like the love for football in the States is just through the roof. It's the same thing. It's a passion that you won't see anywhere else.
I love it. So far, thoughts on the season, start to end, be it COVID related, being the new divisional play, thoughts on the team itself. Give me your overview. What's your gut feeling on how the season has been so far?
With the changes to the schedule and only playing the same, 7 other teams, throughout the season, I wondered how it would work and how it would be for this, for this squad. And I was very happily surprised, first of all, by the effort. All of the team has really accepted Rod Brindamore's way of running the team. And it just seems that their relentless pressure seemed to cause nothing but issues for teams like, Detroit, who's still in rebuilding mode, Chicago as well. And I thought, who wants to play the Stanley Cup champion so many times just to see if they're going to make the playoffs? I was really concerned about that, and absolutely delighted with how it turned out. This team really showed their strength, through and through, whether it's scoring, defensively, goaltending was a pleasant surprise. And I know we're going to get to that later. Just through and through, this has been a great experience, and it's going to be interesting to see. And again, we'll talk about this. The playoffs, getting out of these first 2 rounds might be the most difficult.
I agree.
Might be the most difficult of the whole experience, and for every team that's in the playoffs. So yeah, I've loved the effort that they've showed. I've been very proud to see them right at the top of the overall standings. They've been no worse than 10th, I think, throughout the entire year. And that really says something to the way this team has been built, the way that they've been playing.
Yep. And I think it's the way they play for each other. Just listening to you, a few things that come to mind are, I remember the days of the Southeast Division.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist anymore, but now it's the South Beach. So you have Carolina, Florida, in Tampa Bay, were top 10 teams practically the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's through injuries. That's through basically beating each other up some nights. I said, this has been the most fun Hurricanes team to watch since 97, ever. I said, now the first year was special. The cup run was special. But I'm just talking about when you sit down to watch a game this year, the only game they were out of was the very last game where Nashville was blowing their doors off and they weren't trying because they had already secured their spot.
Yeah.
The other 55 games this year, they went down 2 goals. I remember a couple of weeks ago in the season, they went down 2 goals in Chicago in the first period. Chicago got a shorty, and then they got paired up and got a second goal. And people were complaining, and it's almost like a riot. And I was like, we're only down 2 goals. And I've never really felt that way before. But this team, you see the way they play for Rod and for each other, and you can tell there's something special about this group. And it feels very much like 2006, where those guys, I remember they were slipping a little bit before the trade deadline, and they brought in, I think it was Sean Hill, or it might have been a little earlier in the season. And they're kind of down. And I remember Sean Hill being like, what's the problem, boys? Like, we're going to keep going. We're going to win games, and we're going to make this happen. And this team feels like that. It's just they haven't had that downtime. They have had to play Tampa Bay and Florida. They had trouble with Detroit. They had trouble with Columbus. I mean, I think that familiarity bred some of that that you normally don't see until the playoffs. You don't see those head-to-head kind of matchups. You don't see things getting mixed up. So this has been a really surprising season for me. I was very surprised with how it worked out in terms of trying to figure out, well, the Hurricanes were in, first and second. They ended up in third in the league. But do we really know? Does that really mean anything now? Once we get out of these COVID conferences, once we get in the league, do we really know how good these teams are?
That's a fantastic question. Like, how would this team play against teams that aren't in the Central Division? When they do that road trip through Canada, how is that going to be? Like, are they going to pick up a lot of wins? Are they going to struggle a little bit with some talented teams? I mean, the Leafs are no slouch, as much as sometimes we want to make fun of them and stuff. But seriously, they're no slouch. There's a lot of talent on that squad, and they've got talent throughout the league that is second to none. Can you imagine a road trip that includes, the Colorado Avalanche, and then 2 nights later you're squaring up against Vegas Golden Knights, who are another top level team? Like, those road trips were never easy. The West Coast ones, never easy. So this one, I guess in one sense, geographically, you kind of stayed in a certain area. You didn't have the long road trips and stuff. You traded that off with, that familiarity that you're talking about. It breeds contempt. You can really learn to hate someone after one game, never mind playing 7 games against them, 8 games against them. That's a real difference. So this team is just so exciting. There's really no games that they've ever really been out of from the very start. And you always believe that what I've noticed is that their relentless pressure has also resulted in higher scoring. And scoring is always brings so much excitement, and you're getting contributions from Natchez, and Niederreiter was big, and Stahl returns to form.
And fourth line. I mean, just a shout out to
the fourth line. Yes.
I mean, Lawrence Geekie comes up. So Geekie comes up. His first pro game, he nets 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up and down the line. At one point, Rod had to break apart. Teravainen goes out. He breaks apart Aho and Svechnikov to split the scoring. Scoring goes down. Svechnikov in particular, people think he's not, he wasn't scoring as much. He was still getting assists, though.
Oh, yeah.
But from top to bottom, you're still seeing that scoring. In light of scoring, milestones, I want to swap gears for a minute, because we'll come back to the playoffs. I mean, that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Big milestone year for the Hurricanes. You got Hamilton, 100 goals, 300 points. You got Svechnikov hits 100 points. Teravainen, 200 assists, 300 points.
All through Teravainen through the injuries still hits those milestones. It says what he's done for this team.
And I mean, you got Slavin and Martinook, 400 games. Niederreiter, 300 points. Stahl, the captain, is playing like a captain. Stahl, I apologize. I was down on you last year. I think you were making room for Jay Willie. Grandpa was in the locker room. I think Stahl was taking half a step back. He didn't seem the same, but Stahl has been one of the best Canes all year. He plays his 1,000th game. And then I got to tell you, maybe my new favorite player, Vincent Trocheck.
I mean,
300 points. He only needs 2 assists to hit 200. So,
here's something that as a hockey fan, a Canadian hockey fan, you have to be a little bit ashamed of. I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about Trocheck before he threw on a Canes jersey. You feel bad about that, because we Canadians and our love of hockey, we like to pride ourselves on knowledge of every team, not just of our favorite teams. And having Trocheck sweep in the way he did and make the contributions that he does, just amazing. And you're right. He, even his injury earlier this season, he suffered a bit of injury time. You could tell the difference in the team without Trocheck in the lineup, even though everyone kind of picked up the slack. When he was missing, there's a certain bit of offensive force missing too. His work in the face-off circle is tremendous, second only to Stahl as far as I'm concerned, as capabilities of winning those draws that you need. I mean, Trocheck is magnificent there.
Absolutely.
And that's what you need, like control of the game. That's what the Canes love. You get from the puck drop, if you can get control of the game, it goes the way you want it to. You're not reacting, and Trocheck brings so much there. I couldn't agree with you more. Trocheck, what a love of him.
If Stahl is the heart of the team, he's the captain, he's the heart, Trocheck's got to be the blood. I mean, You see him and Slavin. I don't know if you've noticed they're at their post game rituals. It's just great to see those guys. Trocheck, I knew a little bit about him. I knew he had an injury. To me, he's the NHL equivalent of Roger Clemens. I'm outside of Boston now. Roger Clemens, Boston Red Sox star. They think he's on the decline. He goes to the Evil Empire and lights it up for years.
Yeah.
Vincent Trocheck, he was the heart and soul of that Florida team. They thought he was done with that injury, or at least he was worth giving up to try and get Holla and Walmart, both of whom are not there anymore. We get Trocheck. He comes back on the mint, and he has absolutely played some of the best hockey that I've seen out of the Hurricanes in 10 years.
Yeah, Stahl and Trocheck here, we'll make this comparison. Stahl and Trocheck are the steak. Guys like Svechnikov and Aho are the sizzle. Natchez, the sizzle. You know what I mean? They put the excitement in the game. I still get chills thinking of the Natchez Aho shorthanded 2-man breakaway against the Panthers. That was so beautiful. It was textbook.
I've never seen something prettier than that goal. I just sat there and was like, okay, 1, 2, he's going to shoot. He didn't shoot. Oh my goodness. Did I see that?
I must have watched that at least 10 times. And I'm telling you, if you're listening to us now and you somehow go 2-person shorthanded breakaway, did I miss that somehow? Do yourself a favor, look it up, because it is magical. It is textbook. It is beautiful. And, to score on Bobrovsky, it's not easy. That's not a gimme.
No, it's not. But those two guys could not have played that better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take our outline out of order here, Ray. Since we're talking about them, your two standouts for the season from the Hurricanes. I think we both agree on Stahl, right? I mean, there's just
no question.
No way. Stahl's like you said, he's the steak, he's the heart, he's the captain. He's playing like a captain. He is playing the way that his brother Eric played in Carolina early on, when the passion was there, when he was surrounded by people that he cared about. Who's number 2 for you? Who backs up? Because I'll tell you right now, I'm a Trocheck guy. I'm wearing my Svechnikov jersey, but the next one that comes in the mail, don't tell my wife. But we're gonna have a Trocheck jersey in the house before.
Beautiful choice. If there's one for me, and I'll use a weather term that everyone knows and loves. When we talk about the Hurricanes, we talk about weather. El Nino. Nino Niederreiter. He is been so impressive this season. When he first joined us, he a Swiss player and kind of a finesse guy, skates hard. He could find the net, and when he made the first, his first time through with this team, he made that good impression. You know what I mean? That the trade was worth it. An instant fan of his effort, because he really turned things around for Minnesota. He was struggling with the Wild. He comes to Raleigh, and suddenly he finds his mojo. He finds that little
something, yeah.
That's right. And he was putting pucks in the net. And last year was another season where it was like, this is the Minnesota Wild Nino Niederreiter, not the Carolina Hurricane Niederreiter that we saw last season. And he struggled last year, much like Stahl. Yep. And to me, his turnaround, he has got a nose for the net. He is making these deflections. He's got a snapshot, like a wrist shot that's just electric. I love the puck coming off of his stick. He's been going to the front of the net more, which is something that I've always liked. I like my players who are gritty, determination, don't mind getting getting a little bit physical and stuff. And he can be a bit of an agitator at times too. He's not, that's not his main game, but he doesn't shy away from it either.
Right.
He's going to the front of the net. He's scoring. He's finding the twine. And that is the expansion of the offense that every hockey team needs. We couldn't have all of our points coming from Aho, Teravainen, and Svechnikov. It had to come from somewhere else. And guys like Niederreiter and Stahl stepped up huge, provided us the offense that we needed, and he was magnificent on the special teams as well. His addition to the power play, his work there, a little bit more ice to work on. He was scoring more points that way as well. Niederreiter, to me, if there is a singular comeback player, to me, it's 1A, 1B with Stahl and Niederreiter, and not disrespecting Trocheck at all, but for me and standouts and comeback form,
That's your guy.
Niederreiter and Stahl, and
I got to tell you,
Niederreiter especially.
in my mind, Niederreiter may be one of the most underappreciated players the Hurricanes have, because I mean, we all know him, we love his game, but you're right, he does a lot of the little things, and I didn't realize how many points he got throughout the season, because he kind of creeps up on you, you know.
Yeah.
He's like background music. You don't really notice he's there, and then you turn around, you're like, when it's missing, you're like, oh, something's missing. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But and he's that kind of a guy, and I think as far as the Canes go, he may be one of the most underrated guys. He doesn't get the same level of recognition that particularly, you know, our first line guys, so that, you know, Svechnikov, Aho, and Teravainen get. But you're right, he's always there. He's in the right place. He works well regardless of who they pair him with. He's not a one-dimensional guy. He plays both sides of the puck. And yeah, I think he's a great choice for a standout. For sure.
No question. And I mean, look, and we don't want to really forget the D that this team has. I mean, and I know this is kind of going off script a little bit, but our D is magnificent. It is so strong and so deep. Brady Shea was another guy that I didn't know a lot about before he came over, except for the fact of that monstrous hit that he laid on Jesper Foss last year. Holy cow. And to have them both together on a team, I wondered how that would be. Jesper Foss, another great addition to the team, by the way. Let's just throw that out there as an aside. But guys like Shea and, of course, Slavin, and, you know,
most
Hamilton.
underrated defenseman in the whole league.
I mean, yeah, they really, to me, I can't think of, I'm sure there is, but a team that has the embarrassment of riches on the D that the Hurricanes have. I mean,
I think you're right. To go back to Shea for a second, when he came down from New York, I said, okay, please don't let this be another Sandis Ojelech. That was my first thought. I'm like, this is an offensive defenseman, and they don't always work here. Hamilton seems to be the exception. But Brady Shea, in my opinion, has changed his game. He is not just going out there and trying to score points. That guy actually can play some defense.
Yes.
And to be a defenseman in Rod's system might be the toughest job in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Because Rod expects those guys to join the rush when they're supposed to stay back when they're supposed to. He expects a lot out of that defensive core, and every one of those guys mans up and does it.
They've got this mental acuity, knowing when to jump in and when to hang back a little bit. And when they have jumped into the play, when the D has jumped in, they have been deadly. They have been like very efficient with their opportunities. It's almost always a grade A chance scoring opportunity, or it's points. I have not very many times in this whole season seen or heard, as I listened to a lot of games as well, where a pinch has been done to try to force some offense that turned around being back in the Canes net. It hasn't happened very often. I'm sure that it has, but it is so few times. Those types of mistakes are the ones that you need to cut out of your game. And the mental acuity that this defensive crew has is fantastic. Love it.
I agree.
We can't leave them out.
100%. I think there have been some turnovers. Gardner's going to catch some heat for that. Shea's going to catch some heat for that. But if you look at the overall body of work, those guys don't make too many costly mistakes. They're few, they're far between, and we have the talent for once to make up for them.
No kidding.
Because we can't talk about the D without talking about the guy I call Ned Spellcheck, because I can't spell his darn name. Nedeljkovic, Ned. He comes in last year. He plays terribly. The fan base is on his case. This guy is not an NHL goalie. What are we going to do? He's not the future. People gave up on him, and I feel like I was a small minority. I didn't know a ton about him, but I'm like, goalies are a little different. You're going to have to give this guy a little room. You know, Mazur gets hurt. They call up Ned, and Ned, he's certainly in contention for the Calder. I don't think he's got the games to win it, but if he had played another 10 games with those same goals against and save percentage numbers, which are the best on the team, and amongst the best 2 or 3 goalies in the league, he would be both a Calder and a Vezina candidate. I mean,
no, without question, his effort. He has been another one that's been a ridiculously pleasant surprise for net minding. We've got Mrazek and Reimer, and the solid goaltenders, which you feel good about, but with an injury, you sometimes worry what could happen. And Ned comes in and plays just stellar hockey, best goals against average in the league. He was right up there at the top with the save percentage as well, like you previously mentioned. The kid, he just blossomed. And you're right, goaltenders are on a different scale of progression and skill that you can judge them on than anyone else, any other position in the league. And he really turned it on, and he's so young. I mean, he's
going to get better, folks.
He's going to get much better.
I can't see this out there in radio land, but I have a huge grin on my face because this kid is only going to get better. And we're such a young team. That holds true for Aho, Svechnikov, Teravainen, and Nira. I mean, the whole team is fairly young, and they're just going to keep getting better. And one of the questions people are asking is, have they re-signed Brind'Amour? Now, I've seen some posts, I think, I won't mention the website, but they said, oh, Brind'Amour's been re-signed. That was from 3 years ago, folks. If you've heard Brind'Amour has definitely been re-signed, the photo that's going around is from 3 years ago when he signed his contract. It's not a done deal. At least the Canes have not made an announcement. So everything's been speculation. But Rod Brind'Amour, I mean, he's got to be coach of the year.
There's no question. He's the coach of the year in the NHL, without question. Full stop.
Could have been last year, could have been the year before, right?
100% he could have been. What he's done with this team, how he's helped them develop and grow, his leadership that he brought when he was wearing the jersey, hoisting the cup in 2006, has transferred over beautifully with him behind the bench. He is no nonsense. He demands effort. He demands work, and that's what he gets. He's got the players' respect. The players respect him. He respects them. He knows what they can bring to the game. He'll tear them down if he needs to, but he builds them up too. Boy, does he talk well about his players, and he props them up. You know what I mean? Like, he knows
he's a player's coach, but with discipline. Because we've seen player coaches who let their guys run wild.
Yep.
But Rod, being the guy he is in Carolina, Rod should be in the Hall of Fame.
No question.
NHL. If anybody from the NHL hears this, Rod deserves it.
Yes.
Because of what Rod did in Raleigh as a player, you can't give him 99% as a player now that he's a coach, because he's been there and he gave 100% all the time.
Yes.
And you can't be a player and look him in the eye and say, I'm only giving you 99% today, because that's not going to sit well with Rod. He's not going to tolerate that. And we see that on the ice. I mean, you see those guys are given every ounce that they have every shift.
That's what he expects out of him. And then, a lot of people, even last season up here, a lot of people did features on the Hurricanes and stuff, and it focused on Rod and what it focused on. And I say this with nothing but respect for Mr. Brind'Amour. Rod the Bod. The man is a physical specimen, a physical beast, just fitness through and through, and he's there in the gym working with the players. And when the players look around the gym and they're doing their bench presses, they're doing their leg lifts and their squats and stuff like that, and they look over and they see their coach is in there pumping the iron with them, that says that he's in the trenches with you.
Absolutely.
That means something. It's not just like someone sitting in the background directing traffic. He's in there with you. He knows what you're going through, and he's going through it with you. And that speaks volumes. You don't see other coaches doing that.
No. I think we have the one coach in the league where if the Hurricanes were to square off against Washington, knock on wood, we get past Nashville, go Washington, I say you sign Rod back to a player contract. And if Wilson tries any crap, you just let Rod take care of it.
Oh, man. Let's not waste any time on Wilson and be done with it. But, yeah,
I like having a coach that could. I like having
yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that great knowing that? You bet.
So we're getting toward the end here. So last segment. Round 1 starts in 2 days. What do you think? What are the expectations? What do you think the series is going to look like?
Okay.
what do you think is going to be the difference makers here? Because these teams know each other very, very well at this point.
Yeah, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, the familiarity breeding contempt. There is no love lost between these two teams. Now, the last two games, again, this is so weird. It's like to be frank, it feels like the whole season has been the playoffs with just extended playoff games. We're facing the same teams over and over and over again. And because Carolina played the Predators in the final two games of the season before they meet up for a 7-game series, this is like a 9-game series with the first two games really didn't count. And look, that last game really didn't count considering we sat guys like Hamilton, Svechnikov. We sat so many of the key players, making sure they're good and rested and ready to go. To me, this is going to come down to, as most playoffs, this is going to sound a little cliche for the hockey lovers out there, but goaltending and special teams has always been the playoffs. This year is no different. The Canes have been magnificent in the top 5 of both power play and penalty kill all season long. That has been magnificent and something this team has not experienced in the past. And it's probably why you has said that this team is so much more exciting, because special teams, things are happening and they're not suffering on the penalty kill either. They're killing off the penalties when they take them. So it's great. Nedeljkovic has been that surprising joy to me. I look at this, if the Hurricanes and Rod has them fired up and ready to go, I can't see this series going any more than 6 games. It's a Canes victory, and I'm giving full respect to Nashville, because they really had to fight their way in. And Saros, when you talk about goaltending, there's a young man who could steal a game or two, and he's had to, you know what I mean? And look, Peke Rinne, he's no slouch either. That man is outstanding. I mean, you'd love to have him between the pipes for you. Any team would love to have him. So look, they've got the goaltending that they need. They've got a grit and determination that is very similar to Carolina, but for me, just an embarrassment of riches. Our D is better. The sizzle that I was talking to you earlier is a little bit better than what Nashville can put forward. And to me, I think it's a 6-game victory, 4-2 for the Canes. I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to see it a lot shorter though, because guaranteed, when they win this series, the next one, Tampa and Florida, your options,
it's going to be tough.
Holy cow, that's going to be a very, very tough series. So put the Predators away quickly, be done with it, get your rest and ready to go, because the next series is going to be even more difficult.
I am with you 100% on this. And I got some numbers here for you too. But to start out with, I think early in the season, we saw a Nashville team with some injuries and Carolina was healthy. At the end of the season, it's reversed. We got Slavin's out. He's still a possibility for game 1, but we don't know. The tail of the tape, really, you mentioned the power play. You mentioned the penalty kill, special teams. The numbers here, Nashville Predators, 11.1% on the power play. It's not good enough.
No.
If you want to win the series, 11.1% on your power play is not going to be good enough. However, the Hurricanes are rocking an 88.9% penalty kill. Folks, that is exceptional. If you're not sure what the numbers are, that's a top 5 in the league.
It is.
On the penalty kill, it's the exact opposite. The Predators, a 65.4% PK on the season versus Carolina. I should say, this isn't overall, but versus Carolina specifically.
Yeah.
Whereas on the power play, take a guess. 34.6.
It might as well be 92%.
It might as well be 92.
When you are scoring at that level, I mean, come on.
That's almost a power play a game. For most games, you're probably going to be on the power play 3 times. That's a goal a game gifted to you just by the refs doing their job.
And especially when Nashville is not killing off penalties. Against the Canes, 65%. Against the Canes at 65%. How do you they have to be very careful with how the game is going to be called. And just one penalty, that's all it takes, to get back into a game, right? When you need to get back into a game and the Canes are down a couple of goals and stuff, they get a power play goal right back in. And that's what they could rely on all season long. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
it's just
and they've
magnificent,
done
right?
so well in that area against Nashville. I
Yeah.
do worry. Soros he's like Nedeljkovic. He is a great young goaltender.
Mhm.
Those guys, this could be, the Southeast in general gets heat about hockey, from original six kind of traditional fans sometimes. This is going to be a fun series to watch.
Yeah.
Whether it goes to 6 games, which I'm with you, I want to see it end shorter. I think it's going to go to 6. If they could end it shorter than that, great. But I think whether it's a 4-game series or a 6-game series, you're going to see fireworks
Oh,
out of this
yeah.
series.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is going to be real big time playoff hockey, folks.
A lot of people are looking around the league at other series. I know here in Canada, everyone's focused on, Toronto, Montreal. The, since hockey was born, rivalry, Toronto versus Montreal has been, oh my gosh, yeah, they're looking at that. There's a lot of focus on series like that. There'll be a huge focus on the series a little bit further south in Florida, right? Florida and Tampa are going to be an amazing series. But look, do not close your eyes. Look at this series. Look at the talent that's there and the skill that they have in the goaltending. This is going to be a good series to watch. And certainly, again, I want to show my respect to the Predators because I like the way they play too. They got a great style about them and stuff like that, and they're not to be overlooked. And really, in the playoffs, no team is to be overlooked. We've seen number 8s going to the finals and winning it all in the past, right? So really, in the NHL, where the playoffs, finding position is important. But ask Tampa what they think about playing against a number 8 team
Yeah,
and what that's done to them in the past. You know what I mean? You can't overlook anyone,
you
and
can't.
certainly we can't overlook the Predators.
You
No
can.
way.
I think we have to focus on the Predators. Rod will make sure that I'm not too worried. And then for me, it's about the injuries. If we can keep the injuries to a minimum, which every team's going to go through injuries, but we got a couple of key guys. Slavin's one of those ones. We have a few guys who had concussions this year, including Teravainen and Shea. If we can keep those guys healthy, though, I feel very good about the next few weeks.
Real quick surprise question,
Yeah.
and it's focused on Slavin. Do you put him in for game 1, or do you give him a chance to rest, a little bit of extra time to make sure that he's healed up, or do you want him on the deck running from the start of the series?
Well, thanks to NHL rules, we know that he has a lower body injury, which could mean that he amputated a leg or he stubbed
Yeah,
a
or
uh,
stubbed a toe. Yeah, exactly.
Depending on the injury, if you can rest him, I would rest him. The first 2 games are in Carolina. They just increased capacity, folks. They maybe have doubled it from 6 to 12,000, is what we've heard. So with that home fan base, I think the Canes have enough without him to take it, especially a game 1, because they're going to be ready to rock and roll. They're going to want to put up points. They're going to put bodies into boards. So if you can rest him, I say rest him. But to me, it comes down to, what is the injury? If it's something where he's sore, they just didn't want to risk it, play him, because I'd rather have him in there than not have him in there.
Yeah, no, hey, your team only sees benefits with him on the ice than without. But it's playing the gauge, right? And it's a risk reward type situation. You focused on the one thing though that we hadn't had a chance to touch on as much, and that is the fans. You're gonna turn on this game, and you're going to hear a building that's coming apart at the seams, and they still only have 12,000 fans in there. With only 6,000 fans in there, it feels like the roof is going to come off. The fans are amazing, and that's the type of juice that you need injected into the system every now and again. And the fans are going to be there raising the roof. It's going to be outstanding. The only bad part for me is that I can't be in the rink with you guys, really. But
Same.
you know what? When the puck goes in the net, you'll hear a scream from the north. Okay, all you folks further south, you'll hear this strange scream of joy, and it'll be echoing through the air from the north, and you'll be wondering, what the heck is that? That's me. That's me cheering.
I'm with you. I'm 600 miles away. We do have the loudest house in the NHL. Unfortunately, you were in Calgary. I was there for the 2002 Cup run. I was in the building for the 2006 Cup run.
Yeah.
To have 18,000 people stand for a 2.5-hour hockey game is something to behold. And
that still gives me
traditional
chills.
markets can say what they want, but I go to games here in Boston. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And we really do have something special in Carolina because of the Caniacs. And that's why we're doing this podcast. Ray's a
Indeed.
Caniac at heart. I'm a Caniac at heart. My 7-year-old was a Bruins fan. I think he is converted. I'm
Yeah.
big happy dad here that maybe he's going to go against the his buddies, and he's asking about Hurricanes hockey. So I'm really psyched. But Ray, we're hitting about 40 minutes now, so we want to kind of probably wrap things up. But
You betcha.
last thought, is there anything else you just want to share about either the podcast, the team, something quick in general to
there's
off?
really not much more to add right off the top. I'm really looking forward to doing this, sharing our love, spreading the joy of a great game about a great team. And I can tell you, even if we were to expand our involvement into other teams and stuff, yes, we have our love of the Hurricanes and stuff, but I know guys like you and I who have followed the game for a long time, we could sit down and talk about any team in the league. And really, if you love the game, if you want excitement, hockey playoffs, it's where it's at. Make sure you check it out. Enjoy the game. You will love it. I guarantee you will love it.
I hear you. Ray and I are going to do this podcast at least through these playoffs. Then we'll regroup, see what we're going to do about next year. If people are enjoying the podcast, they feel like they're enjoying it, getting something out of it, we'll keep doing it. I wear my heart on my sleeve when it comes to the Canes. I am upset. I am devastated. I'm mad the next day after a loss.
Yeah.
And I step back. My analytical brain pops into play. Now we can talk, we can focus, we can really talk about what happened. But I'm definitely an emotional guy when it comes to the Hurricanes. Hopefully, we'll be able to spread some of that love here with the podcast. So if you guys, as listeners, if you have comments, questions, doesn't matter if you have been following the team since Hartford, doesn't matter if today is your first day. We believe fully that hockey is for everybody. Send us your questions. We'll put Twitter and Facebook links down there. Ask us questions if you need to know about the rules, if you want to know about the history of the team in Carolina or in Hartford. We'll be happy to answer any question. No question is silly. We all had to start somewhere. Ray and I are lucky enough that we got a huge jump when it comes to the Canes. But if you're just joining onto the bandwagon, there's plenty of room. We welcome everybody aboard.
Lots of room. And just one final note to the fans out there, take warning. It's going to be an amazing playoff series. I'm looking forward to this. Take warning, people.
Wonderful. All right, Ray, we will talk to you next week.
Cheers. Go Canes.
Go Canes.